Economic hardship aids capital punishment call for Corper sparks outrage. Presidential media aide Temitope Ajayi has come under fire for demanding the capital punishment of National Youth Service Corps member Ushie Raye Uguamaye following her viral TikTok video criticizing the Tinubu's administration over inflation and economic hardship. Uguamaye, currently serving in Lagos, expressed frustration over Nigeria's rising inflation, stating every single week prices keep increasing. I want to know, what is the government doing about it? She further described President Tinubu as a terrible leader. Ajayi, in a now deleted Facebook post, insisted that she had violated NYSC regulations and should face the strictest punishment. As backlash grew, he later clarified there is no death penalty under NYSC law. My comment was a metaphor referring to the highest form of punishment under the scheme, which is expulsion. Human rights lawyer Aide countered Ajayi's stance, arguing that criticizing the president or government is not an offense under the NYSC Act or bylaws. Uguamaye's statements are protected under Section 39 of the 1999 Constitution, which guarantees freedom of expression. Opposition leaders Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi have equally condemned the calls for punishment, with Obi stating, in a democracy, citizens must be allowed to express their grievances without fear of intimidation. Amnesty International also weighed in, warning against what it described as a dangerous pattern of silencing government critics. The controversy has ignited national debate on free speech, with many calling for the protection of citizens' rights to criticize government policies without fear of retribution. Raye's case has been on for a few days, and it's gone from a simple backlash to the government as regards venting her frustration, the price of things, young adults, having moved out of home for youth service. She was venting her frustrations online as regards, why do we have, the price of things going up every other morning we go to the market? Why is nobody doing anything about it? And metamorphosed into the NYSC going ahead to, sending her a note of wanting to delete posts, to them calling her for a meeting on Monday, and the presidential aide saying crimes like this might as well deserve the capital punishment. What are your thoughts on this report?
I think it's absolutely absurd, to put it kindly, for anybody to think that a criticism against the government or even any institution at that should call for capital punishment. He can't explain it away. Capital punishment only has one meaning everywhere in the world. That's death sentence. And that capital punishment is only reserved for capital offense. So the question is, when did criticizing the government become a capital offense?
Although he has come to say he meant expulsion.
No. He can't explain it away. What he should have rather done is to apologize for his overzealousness or his poor understanding and use of the English language. Every other explanation doesn't carry water. He used the term capital punishment. Capital punishment is not the same thing as expulsion. There is no saying, capital punishment. Capital punishment does not mean the highest punishment as he wants to lead us to believe. Capital punishment means death punishment. You see, this is even one of the things we keep saying. Maybe if it were in some society, by now, even the government which he serves would have encouraged him to, rather than making these excuses and trying to redefine the meaning of capital punishment, he should have rather apologized and possibly excuse himself from that government. It's a democratic government, or at least we pretend that it is. One of the key components of democracy is citizens' rights. First, the government, one of the key components is there is a legitimacy of opposition. And opposition thrives on the ingredients of criticism. Okay. Even beyond the formal opposition parties and other citizens, the ordinary citizens have the right to voice their opinion. To be sure, government naturally try to weigh people's opinion. That is what is called public opinion, to know how people feel about government policies. So this lady in question only vented her frustration. the criticism of the government, which is her government, which is the she is a citizen of Nigeria, for crying out loud, and also she lives in Nigeria. So whatever policies the government make affect her directly, and she's a corper living on a 33,000 naira per month in a place like Lagos.
I was going to come.
I mean, if you ask me,
I was going to come.
Lagos and cities are not even the finest place for coppers to serve, given the cost of living in the cities in Nigeria.
You know, you've gone before me. We are talking about the 33,000 naira that coppers earn. You know that the minimum wage hasn't yet been effected for the coppers. The minimum wage, it is yet to be. They said they are yet to, get the funds to effect the minimum wage, right? And in a country where the minimum wage at 70,000 is unable to, purchase. I think a half bag of rice is about 50,000 just now.
Bag of rice?
Half.
Okay.
A half bag of rice, maybe 50,000. Maybe you might see 48,000, and someone is earning 33,000, right? Do you think it is well within her right to have expressed her frustration the way she did? Do you think this action by Raye should rather be applauded as opposed to everybody trying to shut her up?
Absolutely, it's within her right to criticize the government or any government at that in her country. Whether she should be applauded, like they say, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, should be left to the ordinary citizen. But the least we expect that those that who don't want to applaud her is to call for a capital punishment against her. You may choose not to applaud her, but definitely it is wrong to call for a capital punishment. There are those who would want to applaud her because she has vented or aired what many people would want to say, maybe may not have the platform to say it. You and I buy from the market, the cost of things. You know there's nothing she said in that comment that is a lie, other than the fact that maybe her choice of language may not be the same language you would want to use. And by the way, this particular president of Nigeria, the incumbent now, had previously set a precedent in criticism of government. From all the presidents I can remember, he was a fanatical critic of former President Goodluck Jonathan. Perhaps the only president he didn't criticize is President Buhari. That is understandable because he contributed to Buhari coming into power and they're in the same party. He was a critic of President Jonathan. He was a critic of late President Yar'Adua, critics of Obasanjo, Abacha and Babangida, and rightly so too. He had a very good reason to criticize them, because if you ask me, over time leadership in Nigeria has not really lived up to expectation. What means that having lived that life of being a vocal critic of past government, why do we want to rewrite the law because he is the person in power? When did it become a capital punishment? If it was a capital punishment those times, probably he wouldn't even be here
right
now. So nobody should think of criticism as a capital punishment, and nobody should come and try to redefine capital punishment. Just admit it that you erred in your use of word. Just apologize to Nigerians and assure that Corper that you meant no harm. And most importantly, let the government, if I were the government, what they should even come out with is that to make it clear that that particular statement does not represent the view of the government, to assure Nigerians that it is well within their right to make a criticism of the government, and that under no circumstances will this government threaten them with sanction, talk more of capital punishment.
Thank you so much. Also, now let's move a little bit towards the National Youth Service Corps, because when the story broke as regards the lady venting her frustrations, the first person or the first body that reached out to her, which she reported, was the NYSC, telling her to take the post down and inviting her to the office on Monday morning, 10 a.m. And when she got although I think she went with Sowore, followed her along, and that sitting didn't quite hold. I don't know the role of Sowore in all of this, if it was the reason the sitting didn't quite hold, because I mean he decided to tag along with Raye. Now, what are your thoughts as regards, number one, when this viewpoint of this lady was shared? It wasn't shared with her putting on the uniform for the NYSC. She shared this opinion from a place of a normal citizen. sitting in her home or wherever it was she was, holding onto her phone and making a video with plain, plain civilian clothing, right? Where does NYSC come into this whole scuffle we currently have now?
All these things are a result of overzealousness. Everybody wants to prove to Oga that I am working, not just that I'm working. Oga, I'm in support of you. Oga, I'm doing everything to ensure that nobody says nonsense about you. Like you rightly said, she spoke in her living room or wherever, at least in her privacy.
Right.
Nothing in the world would have told anybody, except to have a personal contact relationship with her. Nothing in the world would have told anybody that she is a youth corper, that she is serving under the NYSC. So the NYSC authorities may have as well ignored her, because to the best of my knowledge, she didn't mention that she is a corper.
Right.
Yeah. So they would have ignored her.
So why do you think they asked her to apologize to the NYSC?
Like I said, it's in a bid to prove to Oga that we are doing everything to ensure that nobody. You remember that incident years ago, my Oga at the top.
Right.
So we have a system here, everybody's trying to please the Oga at the top, to prove to Oga at the top that that Oga, I'm doing everything to protect your image. Nobody can talk nonsense where I am. I think that's what I've given right to them. But what they don't know, or what they didn't know they did unintentionally, was to help to promote that, because it was actually their intervention that actually made it go more viral, that attracted the likes of Showore and others commenting on it. They by themselves brought out the NYSC's angle into it, and by that it looked to many people as if there was a deliberate attempt on government part to shut criticism. So if you ask me, they would have just let it go. I mean, without even pretending they know the lady who was talking. At best, maybe on their CD they would have, was it even necessary? Maybe to tell her, oh, please leave NYSC out of it. Maybe don't mention, if they are so desirous of pleasing Oga, don't mention that you are a corper, which she already didn't do.
Right. But,
anyway.
But what is this idea that you cannot criticize the government if you're a youth corper? You notice that the lawyer rightly said it's not part of the NYSC bylaw. But going through the internet on Twitter when the story broke, I saw a lot of people saying you cannot be a youth corper, you're employed by the government, and criticize the government.
Who said if you're employed by the government you cannot criticize the government?
Many Nigerians.
Yes, many Nigerians say it, but that is just a convention. For all I know, across the world, what is stated is that a civil servant, and this has been abused in Nigeria severally. A civil servant ideally should not be a member of a political party, because we're expected to serve every government in every government that comes to be without having a partisan attachment. Yeah, nothing that says a civil servant or a citizen should not criticize.
Do you think that
the government?
Corpers are employed by the government? Are they properties of the federal government?
Yes. Conventionally, at least when we were served, we were told that much, that you guys are properties of the government, to the extent that people sees you and respect you as a government property. However, that does not take away the core thing that you are first a citizen of Nigeria before you become a corper. So whatever law that guides the citizens of Nigeria or that protects the citizens of Nigeria protects you also as a corper. So it may be a mere convention that corpers should not be seen being very vocal about the government. But talking about being vocal if that lady has by her post sang praises of the government, would this same NYS officials come out to condemn her for being vocal in support of the government? I doubt so.
One last question before we move to our next report. I want to gather your thoughts as regards many youth corps members travel away from home to go and serve the country in different places. Now, in recent times, some people have gotten kidnapped. Some people have, lots of kidnap cases have arisen. This lady made this post, and it took them a few minutes to actually find her, realize that she was in the youth service. Why do you think this effort is usually not being put in to finding, like you said, when you were serving, it seemed like coppers, like they were told, are employed by the government. They belong to the government. Why isn't the same energy not being put in to find coppers that have been kidnapped and help them not get into, you know, the sort of problems that coppers have gotten into in the last few years?
But to be fair to the NYSC, some of the challenges the coppers go through maybe beyond the NYSC officials to handle. For example, a copper traveling on the road across the country and is kidnapped, that may not be directly blamed on the NYSC because they don't own the security architecture to have provided security for their core members to and through the country, you know, and the criminals not differentiating between a copper and the ordinary citizen cannot also be blamed on the NYSC. But to the question is that why is effort not made to identify these coppers? You know, these NYSC officials are government employees. The effort they use in this, if they have perhaps used such effort to get government attention to some of the issues bedeviling the NYSC, maybe just maybe things would have been better off for the NYSC. Let me give you an example. Some of the camps around the nation now are not fit for human habitation. Now, if the government and the NYSC had even made it a policy over the years to start building modern NYSC camps, maybe by now, maybe just maybe by now, we would have gone around 36 states ensuring that each NYSC camp have a befitting place where the coppers can stay. So I think it also generally the decadence in society that there is a misplaced priority. The NYSC, like other government institutions, and maybe to some extent Nigerians in general, need to get their priorities right. What is the priority of the NYSC? Is it shutting down core members or making that 1 year of service worthwhile?
Thank you so much for your insight.